Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon and our continued coverage of Massive Darkness 2. Today we're going to be taking a closer look at the Ranger class. So I have here just as an example Lynn. Lynn is from the Darkbringer pack, so the stretch goal expansion box. And obviously Ranger class is all about ranged attacks. Usually you're going to want to put them in with something like a bow or a crossbow or something like that. And their main mechanic, they don't actually have a board or anything like that, is this separate deck of small cards called the Aero cards. So just to highlight Lynn briefly, normally with a ranged attack you cannot be in the same zone as someone. You can be with a magic attack or a melee attack obviously, but a ranged attack normally you have to be one zone away, or you can be as far away as you want as long as you have line of sight. Lynn's special ability here is that you can target people in your same zone. So she actually removes that disability of having to not be in the middle of the fray. So something to consider. She's a decent ranger if you want to play true solo, because you don't have to worry about getting out of a space and taking all those extra wounds just to get a shot off if you have a really nice bow in your hand. But the main mechanic, again, like I said, is this Aero card deck. And for the Ranger class, it's essentially a kind of push your luck gambling element to determine how well of an attack you are going to get. So you're always going to have the same 12 Aero cards. You're going to shuffle these up and you're going to go through them quite quickly in a game. So you're going to be shuffling them up multiple times. But when you decide you're going to take an attack, you're going to start flipping these over. And you're going to count the arrows at the top. So you can see here I have 3 arrows. You're trying to hit 7. So think of this as a game of blackjack of 21. Blackjack, you want to hit exactly 21 without going over. If you hit 21, you get blackjack. A lot of places will give you a little bonus payout. If you get close, though, you're going to probably win. If you go over, though, you bust. So in this case, I'm pretty far away from 7, so I'm going to say hit me. Ooh, now I have a tough decision to make. I have 5. There are 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s in this deck. I don't have the ratio memorized, but in this instance, if I were to hold in this case and say, all right, this is good, I'm not going to go any further, I'm not going to bust, we're going to look at this middle line here, and this is all the bonuses that we're going to get for this attack. So we could spend 1 mana to get 2 additional strikes or hits, and we can also re-roll 1 enemy die on our turn. All right, well, let's say just for example here, we want to get greedy and we're like, no, I want to go for the bullseye, or I want to get at least 1 more card. Boom. Oh, we busted. That is 8. That's 1 more than 7. In this instance, we would have to look at the bottom line. So this is a lot of negative stuff. We're losing 1 mana. We have to do whatever this symbol is on the enemy card, and we would take 1 automatic undefendable wound. So that would be what happens if you bust. Well, let's just say, for example, we went greedy and got exactly what we wanted. Boom, we got a 7. That's a bullseye. All right, and in this instance, you're going to do everything across the top row here. So you can see here, without spending a mana, we're getting +2 hits. We get to reroll 2 enemy die, and we can ignore all of the automatic hits on the enemy die. So there's almost no reason to reroll that unless we're getting a lot of these symbols. Basically, the more cards you can get out, the more little bonuses you're going to get on a individual attack. But you can't go over 7, so usually 3 is probably about as high as you're going to get. You might get lucky and do something like this. Boom, boom, what is that, 6? I don't even know if there's another 1 in here. Yeah, this is probably like the most cards you could get out, and you'd have to be super lucky. There are ways to mitigate your drawing of these cards, and we're going to look at those now. So that essentially is the attack mechanic for the Ranger. Before you attack, you're always going to do this so you can determine whether or not you get rerolls, whether or not you might get an extra die, or whether or not you might lose some mana or something like that before you even start. So, like I said, there's some important skill cards to keep an eye out for. And one thing that I do want to point out here, because I was playing this one incorrectly the first time, is the Aero Volley card here. This one says ranged attack 1, so you'd spend 1 mana in a ranged attack. Each other enemy in line of sight takes 1 wound. Well, the first time I played this, I believe it was the tutorial mission, I was thinking, oh, well, a mob has, 3 enemy miniatures in it, so I'm just going to target 1, and the other 2 are going to take a hit. I was able to take out, like, the leader before I took out a minion. That is incorrect. An enemy is 1 mob. A mob is like a single enemy. It just happens to have 3 to 4, 6 different figures that you're going to have to take out at any given time. So for this one to be effective, you actually have to have multiple enemies, like 2 mobs or a mob and a roaming monster, both in your line of sight. All right, so this doesn't seem like that great of a card to begin with, but remember, we have to get our base skills before we can level up to the better versions of that skills in the future. So if we start out with Aero Volley 1, when we reach level 3, we can get Aero Volley 2. This just changes it from 1 wound to 2 wounds. And again, all of this is dependent upon the dungeon being flooded with enough monsters in a straight line that, or within line of sight, that you can take advantage of this. But if you are patient enough and get to level 5 and choose Aero Volley 3, you now have deal 2 damage, 2 wounds to every other enemy, and at this point you're going to have, like Lynn right now has a base of 3, but at level 5 she's going to have 6 mana at her disposal. You can kill 1 minion from each mob in line of sight for 4 mana. So say you are just really in the middle of a wide open room and all of a sudden, the stuff hit the fan. This is a very powerful card, but you got to be a little patient to get there. Let's look at the skill that can help you get through. Where's the first version? Here we go. Improved Strings. Improved Strings is going to help you with your card draw. So in this case here, it says when you overload, that's when you bust and you have to use the bottom section. You can ignore one of those effects. So if there's one that's particularly bad to you, like losing a mana and you are planning on using that mana to get a reroll or something like that, that would allow you to ignore that. Again, if you set that one up at level 2, once you reach level 4, you can play this one, Improved Strings level 2. When you overload, you may choose one effect to ignore, and once per turn, if you would overload, so if you attack multiple times and you get really crazy each time and you overload each time, this is only going to work once. But it's not once per action, it's once per turn. But you can discard that last card and say, all right, I stopped. It's almost like a reset or a go back button, which is very handy. The last thing I want to point out is that the Fire Arrow skill, as well as the Piercing Arrow, utilize this symbol here, and as you remember, that is just the symbol for the bullseye. So the Fire Arrow is really good, but the only time you get to use it is if you are hitting the bullseye. So it makes your bullseyes devastating, but you have to have the confidence to be able to hit that 7 each time. Other than that, that is basically the basics of the Ranger class. Again, it's a push your luck, kind of slightly gambling element. You never quite know what you're going to get, but there are a lot of nifty little additional bonuses you get with every attack. So if you like the idea of and what's interesting about the Ranger class is that you can take the actions from the dice and from your Aero cards in whatever order you choose. So you can gain mana and then spend it, or spend mana so then you have a little room to gain it. You can reroll things at a certain time. So planning out your even how you go about a particular attack and which actions you take first within that single attack is a little bit of a strategy with the Ranger. So it's a very interesting class. But if you don't like the randomness of ooh, I may bust, or, you know, again, not knowing really what you're going to get, maybe this isn't the class for you. I don't know. But again, the Ranger class is in the core box. Lynn is in the stretch goal box. And that's going to do it for our Ranger overview. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more content like this in the future, please consider subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.